Welcome back to the Something in the Wilderness podcast, where we select an Andrew McMahon song from his catalog and we dive deep into it, hoping to learn something new about the artist and his songs. Today's a very special episode for two reasons. Most importantly, because I have Diane and Lisa, who both have fundraising teams for the Dear Jack Foundation here. But secondly, we're also celebrating the 50th song episode of the podcast. This is a goal I set for myself a couple of years ago when I started this project, and today, I'd like to say we made it. So welcome to this special edition of the show, Diane and Lisa. How you both doing tonight?
Doing good. Thank you for having me. First time here on your podcast. This is Lisa, by the way.
This is Diane. Thank you also for having me a second time.
Yeah, Diane, we talked, just before we started recording, we were talking about this. We talked 35 episodes ago. It's amazing it was that long ago. And at that point, we had never met in person. And since then, I've seen you at a couple of shows. And hopefully I'll be seeing you at more very soon, which I think we'll touch on. So you mentioned last time on the show, Diane, that you had seen Andrew almost 50 times. Is there an update for us?
Yes, one of the Ohio shows. I hit number 50.
Cincinnati, right?
Cincinnati, yeah. I couldn't remember.
You had a sign, so.
Yeah, so Cincinnati, I hit number 50, and I had a sign, and Andrew did a shout out because I held the sign up when he was talking about his fans that have been around for a while. So I held my sign up and he said, "Oh, is this 50?" And so I got a little shout out from Andrew. That was kind of exciting.
That is really exciting. I remember that moment too. I don't think I knew what he was talking about until someone kind of said, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I know her." Okay. I was like 12 people back.
Yeah.
And Lisa, like you said, you're new to the show. So I guess tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, not to outshine Diane, but I have seen Andrew over 100 times.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, it was like this time last year that was my 100th show. So I'm a very big Andrew fan. I think that kind of goes without saying, but I love to travel. In the past, probably like 10 years or so, pretty much try to book vacations where I can work in a show at the same time, because even if the city sucks, the show is going to be good. So that's been sort of my thing for the last like 10 years or so. And Halloween is my favorite holiday. So this is like my time of year. So when you were asking for dates, I was like, got to be before Halloween. I'm too busy before everything.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't schedule this on Halloween. No way. Yeah. We've got traditions.
Do you go trick or treating?
Yeah, our kids go trick or treating.
Yeah.
So yeah, not me. I don't trick or treat. I eat the candy, but, of course. So I'm curious because both of you have seen Andrew a huge amount of times, and you've traveled. I know both of you have traveled across the country to see him at times. Are there other artists that you would travel so far to see and that you've seen this amount of times, or is Andrew the special one?
For me, Andrew's definitely the special one. I have seen Red Hot Chili Peppers play in Hawaii, but the trip wasn't for that. They just happened to be there when I was going to be there, so grab tickets for it. But Andrew's pretty much the only one that I've traveled across seas to go see, quite literally. So
wow.
Yeah, the same answer for me.
So Diane, are there other artists that you've seen a lot, like near 50, or not even close?
Not even close. Like my sister and I, we've seen the Juliana Theory a couple times, but not anywhere near 50.
I've got a ways to go before I get to 50 or 100. I don't know in my lifetime if I'll make it that far, but that is amazing, and I wish I had your guys' commitment and persistence to go see him. That's amazing. Oh, Lisa, can you tell us about, because we haven't heard your story yet, how did you get into Andrew's music? I mean, it sounds like it was a pretty special moment considering you've gone to see him 100 times.
So it was back in 2002. I had two friends whose birthdays are like 1 week apart from each other, and they were really into New Found Glory. So I had bought them tickets to see New Found Glory at Roseland Ballroom, and tickets back then were like $15. And they're like, "You got a ticket for yourself, right?" And I was like, "No," like I had never even really, I knew some New Found Glory, but not really a lot. So I got myself a ticket. Something corporate happened to be opening, and I didn't research any of the bands. When my friend Matt and I walked in, like Andrew was like on the stage on the piano, and I was like, "What the hell is going on? There's so crazy guy on the piano." So my friend Matt bought the Leaving Through the Window album and Finch's album. They were like $2 for $10, and he burned me a copy. put in that CD. Like Punk Rock Princess is my song. I was like hooked on it, and it just was like, just started, Polestar.com is what I used to use back in the day to find out when concerts were happening. So I like plugged in something corporate so I would get the alerts. And, I just started seeing them since 2002. Maybe like took a year to like really get into, or till they toured again around here. But
so you saw something corporate a lot back in the day too, before there was even Jack's Mannequin. Okay.
Yeah, that's how I've gotten to over 100, because it's been 20 years of shows. So
right. Well, I really want to focus this episode on the Dear Jack Foundation, since you're both fundraisers for that. But we'll also talk about a song that we all agree to talk about that's probably pretty relevant to our topic today. And I have a few questions to get us started. But first, I do want to share with the listeners the overall mission of the Dear Jack Foundation. And this is what it says on the website. The Dear Jack Foundation provides impactful programming that directly benefits adolescents and young adults diagnosed with cancer in order to improve their quality of life and create positive health outcomes from treatment to survivorship for patients and their families. And either one of you can take this question, but can either one of you describe what the Dear Jack Foundation is and what they do for other people?
Diane, do you want to? I know you've been sort of on the receiving end of what they've done more recently with the anchor boxes, correct?
Yeah, so I can speak on that since I am a young adult cancer survivor. You heard all about that in my episode prior. I have directly benefited from some of Dear Jack's programs. I have never been on the life list, but I have received their, they have the anchor box, the care package, and it came with a couple things, and it was like a deck of cards that were inspirational quotes and pens, a bracelet, and just a nice little care package. Other things I've benefited from, they pass out like memberships to things. So I have a 1-year subscription to Masterclass, and I received that through Dear Jack.
Okay.
And like the life list, the way I sort of describe it to people who, are sort of asking, I say it's like a low key make a wish thing, because, it's them, granting a wish, but it's something to help improve their time while they're going through treatment. And then the Breathe Now retreats are a way for survivors to sort of ease in and connect with their partners.
I am surprised doing this podcast for the last couple of years. I assumed that everyone that was a fan of Andrew McMahon's music knew what Dear Jack did. I think most everybody who's a fan of his music knows that Dear Jack Foundation exists, and then he helped start it. But I'm not sure if they all know what they do, and also the fundraising side of things. I was talking to a pretty hardcore fan recently, and I was surprised that they did not know anything about the fundraising. So I do want to talk more about that. So how did the both of you get inspired to start helping Dear Jack fundraising and those sorts of things?
So I started fundraising actually just recently for Dear Jack because I am a lung cancer survivor, and I kind of split my fundraising efforts now. Up until this point, I had only been fundraising for lung cancer research, awareness, all of that. Mm-hmm. I'm 8 years post-diagnosis, and I'm in that survivor stage where I'm still in treatment, but I work full-time, and I kind of relate to that part of, because Andrew talks about getting support and help when you're years into your diagnosis. He's 15 plus years past his diagnosis, and there's a lot of things that happen with your mind, your mental health. So I decided that I wanted to fundraise to help others who are also in my situation.
I see. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I've heard Andrew reference that both in concert and in interviews, and I don't think it's something that the majority of us think about. And so I appreciate you and Andrew and others bringing that subject to light and making sure that those of us who haven't experienced that understand, or try to understand at least, that there is more after the treatment. There's more to this illness that affects you. It's physical and it's mental, it sounds like.
It's something that's always on my mind. Like, cancer is just part of my daily life. I think about it all the time. And I know I'm not the only one. It's just something that happens to all of us young adult cancer survivors, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Lisa? How did you get started helping out with Dear Jack?
I'm trying to think like storyline, how to best describe this. So I became familiar with Dear Jack probably about 12 years ago. A friend of mine was 24 at the time, diagnosed with AML, which is a form of leukemia. And we had been doing a lot of fundraising to help her with her medical bills. Because at the time, she was living in Canada with her boyfriend. She didn't have any medical insurance. Like, she just sort of graduated from Northeastern, moved out there to be with him, went to a dentist appointment, and sort of spiraled into now she has leukemia. So when we were holding this benefit for her, I had reached out to Dear Jack to see if there was anything that they could donate. So back during this time, Dear Jack Foundation was really, they would raise money and put it towards other researches. So like to a hospital that Andrew had treatment in California, Leukemia Lymphoma Society, they supported a lot. They would always do teams for the LLS Light the Night Walk.
Mm-hmm.
So Steve Smith was the director at the time, and he sent me like a couple of Dear Jack shirts, Dear Jack DVDs signed by Andrew, and we had that as part of the raffle basket. Also at this time, there was a group called 1111 AM, and they were basically how we all are now, like fans who had sort of put together this little nonprofit side thing that they were fundraising pretty much in the name of Dear Jack, and then donating that money to LLS. But they would do card campaigns as well, and they would collect cards to go to different people they knew that were going through cancer treatment. So Kerry, who was my friend I was speaking of before, I had reached out to Adam, who I'm still connected with. He supports and sends me a lot of donation items throughout over the years for fundraising. And we did a Cards for Kerry campaign through them as well. And they were able to send me some, like, they had a Ruthless CD that was a single, like, signed by Andrew. So we were able to do, like, a little raffle basket. I ended up winning the raffle basket. I gave Kerry the Ruthless CDs out because she was also, like, a fan of Andrew's, like, Something Corporate Days as well. Once Andrea took over the Dear Jack Foundation, they had then started these campaigns. So the very first campaign was 8 years ago, and it was the 72K challenge. So at that time, they were raising $1 for every adolescent, to represent every adolescent young adult diagnosed with cancer.
Okay.
That number is now 89,000 a year are diagnosed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 89,000 a year are diagnosed.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the numbers jumped up. So 8 years ago it was 72,000.
Wow.
So the very first challenge was the 72K challenge. And my friend Stephanie and I started this Instagram called AM Chalk. And we would just start doing chalk events in Washington Square Park and drawing Andrew lyrics. And she's a really amazing artist. She would draw these big pieces. So we would get people to come and ask them for a donation to then chalk. You know, give us, $1 and then you can use chalk and you can draw whatever you want in the park. It's a very like New York City thing, people getting involved as a street artist and stuff. So we became very close with Andrea, who then was the executive director, and it just sort of kickstarted from there. And it just was like, okay, now they're like really like creating their own programs and doing these things, and it's not so much just supporting them to support another foundation.
So it sounds like the foundation not only grew over time, but kind of evolved into something different. And if I understood correctly, so people like yourself started these what are now called teams, and now that's kind of an official way that the Dear Jack Foundation operates, right? There's, I don't know how many teams. I was going through the list, and 30 or 50 teams of people of organizing and doing different events and raffles and selling things and, crafting things even to sell. I see all kinds of things. I try to follow all the teams on social media and keep up with it all. So it sounds like it's really evolved over the years.
It really has. Since Andrea had taken over, they really have done a lot to get like Andrew's like fan community involved in doing something. And, you're just speaking about the different teams. I know there's quite a few like individual fundraisers who were prior lifeless participants who are now want to raise money to give back to Dear Jack in a way, which I love that because it's like it shows how much of an impact it had on them that they want to turn around and help somebody else by raising that money for them.
Yeah, that's great. Now, I know each of you have raised money this year doing certain things. Are there some favorite, I don't know, raffles or events or anything that you've been a part of, either this year or in previous years, actually, that you could speak on? Some favorite things that you've done?
Oh, I have a lot, but I'll let Diane go first because I feel like, when I read this question, Steve, I was talking to my friend Jessica, and I was like, that's probably like the hardest question within this outline because I feel like I could probably talk for like 30 minutes about just different events over the years.
Well, yeah, you've been
Um,
involved for, you said 12 years?
so my friend Kerry was diagnosed 12, maybe 13. She's been gone for 12 years, so probably about 13 years. I didn't really start getting too involved with Dear Jack until they started the 72K challenge.
Okay.
Because I had always done like light the night walks with Kerry's family and her really close friends. So, but I really wanted to be able to give back to them because, they helped in as much of a way that they could. And I know that if what they're doing now was happening, when Kerry was here and going through it, that they would have helped her, in a bigger way that they already did. And, a lot of the inspiration for what I do, and I would say even my friends do, is like from 11:11 a.m. They sort of like paved the way in a wet sense. So I feel like I got to give a shout out to them, especially to Adam and Kathleen, because they still do what they can to help keep Carrie's memory alive. And they still do the light the night walks and walk in her memory. And they've just always are supporting Dear Jack. So I love those guys.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can talk about an event you've done recently.
Maybe. Just recently we had, like this year, we had an event at Newburgh Brewery, and it's sort of like a full circle moment because Andrew is now doing a free show there next week. So it's
wow.
We just had an event for his foundation there. Now he's doing a free show there. He did a free show there, but that was years ago. I want to say maybe when Zombies was coming out. But there have been a lot over the years. And, we've been very fortunate because Bobby Raw lived in Brooklyn for a lot of the years of our fundraising. So he would donate his time a lot and do a lot of like shows for us in New York.
Oh.
We would either do it as like a free show and pass the bucket, or the ticket sales would go to Dear Jack, and he just wanted to show up and play some music and hang out. And we've done a lot of events with Bobby and Zach as well. So we've been very fortunate in that sense. Really, like, Andrew truly surrounds himself with people who care about his community and care about his cause in the way of Dear Jack. There was even one tour that Zach had went on that he allowed me to set up volunteers throughout the tour to set up a table to raise money for Dear Jack. And Mike Portman, he was my contact person, so I had to email him a couple of times a week to be like, all right, this person's showing up for the table, this person's showing up for this one. And it was very much like, if you're on a team, donate that money to your team. If you're not, if I'm sending you stickers, as long as the money was going to Dear Jack, that was the most important thing. So I think that was one of my favorites as well, because everybody had one goal in mind, and it was just to raise money for Dear Jack.
It makes sense to me why Andrew's so involved, of course, but it's amazing to me that his bandmates and other people in his life they also get involved and donate their time. That's really nice.
It's really great.
Diane, I know that you've designed some T-shirts, right, that you were selling for your fundraiser?
Yeah, so I do a very smaller scale fundraising compared to Lisa. I admire her efforts completely. I designed some T-shirts for and I sell them on Bonfire, and then I've also done some auctions on Instagram.
Yeah, so you're Team October, and I know Lisa's part of Chalk Hearts. Now, Lisa, did you know that another member of Chalk Hearts has been on the podcast before?
Chantel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I was so happy to have Chantel a couple years ago, probably right around the time that Diane was on the podcast, actually. I will definitely be linking both of your team's social medias and fundraising sites in the show notes, of course. And thank you both for being here. I think it's really great to have two perspectives of not only Andrew fans, but people who are so closely connected to the mission of the foundation. So So let's touch on the song of the day a little bit here. The song we're talking about today was written specifically for and about someone who's very special to Andrew. Besides Kelly, there aren't too many people who get an entire song written about them by Andrew. Now, Diane and Lisa, since you've been around Andrew a lot, I don't suppose, have either of you ever met Katie or even been in the same room as her, as far as you know, or no?
I have not.
Pretty sure she was at the Chicago benefit. I know I've been in like the same space as her at least once, maybe even at a show in California. But I have never met her like personally. I met his parents like briefly, kind of like,
Oh, that's cool.
hi, but not Katie.
Today's song is going to be There, Katie. So we'll talk a little bit about her and her relationship with Andrew. The song There, Katie was by Jack's Mannequin. It's track 3 of 4 on the Dear Jack EP, which was released on October 30th, 2009. And the EP was released exclusively on iTunes at the beginning. By the way, this is not only the 50th song episode, but it's also the first time on the show that I have finished a collection of music. So Diane was with me when we talked about Diane the Skyscraper on episode 15. Dear Jack was episode 6. And then Swim was pretty recently in the spring. I talked to Laura, who's an author, about the song Swim. That was episode 43. So now we're finally finishing up and talking about There, Katie. And like I said, first time I've finished a collection of songs on the podcast. So it's another exciting moment for me. Do either of you remember how you first came across this song?
Probably from iTunes. There's, I feel like back in the day it was like you can go on right at midnight and download the song or like pre-save through iTunes. I remember downloading and listening to it. So being a keyboard warrior, be like, when is it coming out?
Mm-hmm.
I have a similar way. I probably just listen to it on iTunes. Apple girl here. I listen on I have Apple Music now, and so I probably just downloaded it on iTunes back in the day.
Yeah, I distinctly remember listening to this song on my computer. I remember exactly where it sat in my apartment at the time. It was basically also, it acted as my stereo for the entire apartment. It was a small apartment. It was probably on my iPod as well at the time, but I don't remember. But yeah, I definitely bought it on iTunes along with the other EPs that were coming out at the time. You had The Glass Passenger the year before, and then there was just a couple EPs that came out in the next year to kind of hold us over till the next album. And obviously this one was one of them. But this song was, I don't know if you'd call it a soundtrack, but it was definitely related to the Dear Jack documentary film. Do you remember if this song was in the movie? I don't remember that, if it was actually played in the movie.
I want to say yes, but I'm not 100% sure. I've honestly only watched the documentary like twice.
Same here. I probably watched it less than 5 times, and I don't know if I would remember that.
And I don't remember. I know the song Dear Jack was in it. I'm pretty sure Swim was in it, or maybe that was just a trailer. So I don't know if it, but it was definitely a companion. The EP was released as a companion to the movie for sure. It was released the same week. I do know that Andrew wrote it, but unlike most of the Jack's Mannequin material prior to this, Jim Wirt did not produce it. From the notes I have from the Diane the Skyscraper episode, which was off the same EP, obviously, it says that the producer credits included Kevin Dean, John Fields, and Andrew himself. So I'm going to go with that. If anybody knows any differently, feel free to reach out. I'm always open to being corrected. There's just some things I can't find on the internet. And if all the musicians were the same on this track as the other songs on the EP, then we can assume that Bobby was on guitar, Jonathan Sullivan on the bass, Jay McMillan on the drums, and I believe there were others too. So these 3 are listed as playing strings on Diane the Skyscraper, so I can assume they played the strings in this song too. And that'd be Marissa Cuney, Jeannie Lim, and Ginger Murphy. So according to Setlist FM, this song's been played a total of 36 times in concert. However, interestingly, 22 of them, so more than half, were last year on the 3 Pianos tour. So apparently he didn't play this song much before a year ago. Were both of you at shows on the 3 Pianos tour?
Yeah.
Yes.
A couple of them.
I could have assumed. Did I have to ask? So, do either of you remember specifically him playing this? Was it something that stood out or anything? Because honestly, like from my perspective at a concert, I don't always remember every single song. Like I don't have a memory of every single song being played. I just don't. But do either of you have a memory of the song specifically at that one of those concerts?
I'd say so, because it's always one of the ones that I want to hear, and I feel like you only tend to hear it if it's at like either the Dear Jack benefit or VIP night. It's not on his usual rotation of songs.
Mm-hmm.
And it being one of my favorite songs, I always get very excited when I hear those first couple of notes.
Mm-hmm.
This is gonna sound so bad. I actually don't remember him playing it, but it's kind of like the songs kind of all just like meld together, and I can't remember when they were played.
Same here. I have to look up set list to see what I just saw.
Yeah, definitely.
I like when people post the set list from Andrew concerts, because then I snag them and I either update Setlist FM myself if they're not updated, or I always go out to Setlist FM and check what he played so I can remind myself. So that's the reason I like to take snippets of video so that I can kind of remember what it sounded like. Like if he played something real special like that, like, oh my gosh, it's There Katie, just so I can remember what that sound was like, and it'll remind me later.
And going back to what Diane said with like all the songs that it just clumps together, but like with that pen and piano tour, with it not really being like a clear opener, or, somebody in the middle and the headliner, is like just a lot of music happening at once with one flow. I could see it being hard to have a standout song on that tour specifically.
Okay.
But I'm the same way. Like unless there's a song that it's like, ooh, he never plays this, and you're like, yeah, we got this song.
Yeah.
Everything else kind of just mends together.
When I was searching videos for this song online, I said to my wife, I think I know one of the songs he's going to play at the benefit this year, because every video was like, Dear Jack 2018, Dear Jack 2015, Dear Jack 2016, Dear Jack 2019, and so I was like, okay, I think he's going to play that one. But
Yeah.
I don't usually like setlist spoilers, but I can say that because it's pretty obvious just with a quick YouTube search. Yeah, so apparently he didn't play the song much prior to last year's tour, but it definitely makes sense why he played it on last year's tour, because it was really supposed to be reflective of his life, right? Based upon the book that came out a year ago. And I would say that There, Katie was a very significant song in his history, being that it's his sister and that she donated stem cells to essentially save his life. But I was thumbing through the book recently. I read it, almost a year ago now. I finished it, and I had to remind myself, but she is mentioned quite a lot in the book, actually, not surprisingly. So let's go back to the 11/11 benefit show. So, Diane, I said at the beginning of the episode that I assume I'll be seeing you soon at a show coming up. Is that right? Are you going to be at 11/11?
Yes, I will.
Okay. Now, Lisa, I can bet you're probably going to be there too.
I usually always try to go, but I just couldn't make it happen this year, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had started a new job. I won't be there a year yet, and I don't have as many days off. We don't get Veterans Day off, unfortunately.
Okay.
Flights are kind of expensive. So I was really, I had the tickets, I had the hotel booked, I just had everything but airfare. And then my boyfriend and I were just like, had to miss it. It's hard to miss. It is.
Yeah, I bet, because you're super committed. That must be difficult. But I completely understand that, all those things. I see him announcing tour dates, and I have FOMO. Every tour date that's announced, like Arizona, Las Vegas, like they keep popping up. Atlantic City is the other one. I'm like,
Yeah.
all places I won't be able to get to.
I know. I'm like, I can't go to that show, but I bought a ticket to When We Were Young Fest because they had a payment plan. And yeah, why not head out to the desert?
I will see you there.
Oh, awesome. You'll both be there. Well, how can you miss the Something Corporate reunion?
I was going to say, it has not been my first time that I've flown across the country for Something Corporate reunion. Last time I did was Something Corporate. They played Bamboozle Left. And then so a friend of mine and I went out to California. We were there for a week. We did whole vacation in Southern California. Mm-hmm. And then our last day was at Bamboozle at Angel Stadium. I remember sitting in the airport the next day, and I'm on my laptop, probably uploading pictures. And I got an alert, Something Corporate at Bamboozle, New Jersey. I'm like, come on now, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I was very excited, don't get me wrong. But I was like, I guess I didn't need to come out here to see them. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again, but I didn't want to take any chances.
Yeah, I guess it's possible they would do an East Coast Something Corporate reunion, but who knows? I mean, yeah, but that's cool that you guys are both going to Something Corporate reunion next year, so you'll have to report back. I won't be there, but I can't wait to hear about it, see the pictures, the videos, and all the hear the story. So I kind of thrive on that when people post in the fan group, and it's like, so much fun to follow, even if I can't be a direct part of it. So I'm new to the whole Dear Jack benefit. So I'm going for the first time. The benefits next week. I think prior to like 3 years ago, and again, it's people like myself who had no direct affiliation with Dear Jack or anything going on with that. I don't think a lot of people understand. So I actually think I thought it was a private show at one point. And so I never even bothered to look at what city it was in and whatnot. It wasn't until like 2019, or maybe when it didn't happen in 2020, it all kind of came to light about what it was, and that it was. There's several activities, was my understanding, around 11/11. Just one of them being the concert. Can the two of you talk me through that, about what those are, and I guess what the options are, and what kind of things that someone could expect that's going?
Sure. So something new they've done in the past couple of years, maybe it's not as new anymore, is a scavenger hunt. So they know a lot of people come from all over for this show. So they set up a scavenger hunt. I believe it's the day of 11/11 throughout the day, I guess, to encourage people to go out and explore the city. So there's an app you download, and you have to like take pictures, and it's sort of, I guess, usually spells out like Dear Jack. They give clues, and it's usually like lyric clues, and it leads you to one last destination. And I think one year they gave like a little rubber duck, or they have a pin that they give you. So a cute little prize, and it's usually Susan waiting at the end with a little prize. So it's fun. It's a great way to do something with your friends out in the city.
Is that for any fans that are in town, or is that just for the fundraising teams?
Any fans.
Okay.
I want to say last year they did like maybe like a $10 donation as an entry fee.
That sounds fair.
I could be wrong, but I think they did like a small donation to do it, to participate. It's worth it. It's fun.
If that's an option this year, we're definitely doing it. So I'll have the whole family there, my wife and my 2 daughters. So we'd love to do that.
Yeah. It'd be a fun way to get the kids involved.
Yeah. So that's the scavenger hunt, but there's also the show. There's a VIP night. Can you talk about the differences between those?
So VIP night tends to be more personal and a little more upscale, you could say. So they usually suggest wearing like cocktail attire, so everybody gets like dressed up, and it's fun, and it's definitely not as many people as the benefit. So usually it's maybe 100 people. I think this year is going to be the biggest that they have it, which may not even be that many more people. It may only be like 200,
Wow.
It's just Andrew on the piano, and they have a lot of like either warriors speak, or people from like that are part of either the board for Dear Jack or on the team for Dear Jack, and talking a lot about the mission and things. So it's just like more of an intimate feel of an evening. And
the 11/11 show's more of a regular concert.
Yep. And they do still have a lot, like the Dear Jack team will be on the stage at some point. In past years, Andrea has gotten up to talk about it in between songs, or if there's an opener, and then they'll have them come out. So they definitely try to make it special, so it's set apart from like, as if a regular tour's happening.
Okay.
There's one in Denver that I'm upset I didn't get to go to, but they had a lot of the warriors, like list warriors, on stage, and they actually had a person who signed up for the bone marrow list at an Andrew show and swabbed their cheeks, and then got matched with somebody and donated stem cells, so they had them meet on stage at this concert.
That's amazing.
You can find the YouTube video of it, but it really just like, it's one of those moments where you're like, okay, there is a difference being made with these extra things.
That's really cool. Now, Diane, do you go to the VIP night or just the benefit itself?
I only have tickets to the benefit this year, but I did go to the VIP night when it was in Denver. It was an amazing experience. It's actually in probably one of my top 5 Andrew shows. It was such a small, intimate experience. And I thought this was funny because we had all got into the room when we were sitting down on the floor. And then Andrew gets up on the stage and he goes, "Okay, you guys can get up now." And we're like, no, we're good just sitting. We're gonna sit. And so for the rest of the show, we just sat on the floor and we watched him play.
I've been able to see one concert like that. That was more like sitting in it felt like I was sitting in someone's living room, just watch someone play up on stage. That was a pretty incredible experience. Different artist, but I can imagine that was pretty special. And Why would we want to stand if we can sit and enjoy it and not have anybody in our way? Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, I feel like it just kind of shows the aging fan base of Andrew. We just kind of wanted to sit.
Yeah, so it sounds like a pretty special moment you had. Very cool. Well, we already kind of covered that. I was going to ask you guys if you had a special, like a special moment at one of the shows, but that was perfect. Actually, that's what I was going to ask. So, Lisa, did you have an experience at an 11/11 show that you wanted to share?
The Boston, the VIP night. I don't know. It wasn't. There's nothing like really specific that stands out. Just I really like having the ability to mingle with the team at Dear Jack and some of the board members there, and it feeling more like a mixer rather than like you go to a show, you go in, you watch the show, and you leave. Everybody's talking. So for me, being as involved and passionate about the foundation, being able to talk to the people who make all that magic happen behind the scenes really just stands out. And that's what I love about, the benefit in the VIP night is like really gives you a way to connect with those people that you maybe only talk through email for, all the challenge. So the social aspect of it with the Dear Jack people.
I could definitely see that because that's how I feel about the people I've met through the Andrew fan community at large. I've only seen some of them a couple times, like Diane, for example, at shows. But it's really special when we do get to see each other because we know each other more through just like interacting online. But it's really cool when you actually get in the same room with those people and you feel like you're with people you know.
It is because you feel like you're just in a community of these people that either you know them because you've met them in real life, or you're like, oh, I know that person. That's something in the wilderness over there. So you feel like you're just really in a room filled with your friends rather than surrounded by 1,000 strangers.
Absolutely. Well, let's go back to the song a little bit. Regarding songwriting notes, I mentioned earlier Andrew's sister, Katie. So I've read that this song was actually written during Andrew's cancer treatment for his sister, Katie, much earlier than when it was actually released. It was when it started. As we know that she donated to him while he was in treatment, and he's gone on record to say that she saved his life. According to songfacts.com, Andrew explained to Spin magazine that this song, quote, was half written during everything in transit, and the other half after I found out that my sister would be my stem cell donor. So it's a song about and for my sister. Those of us who've read the book know that Katie has struggled with some things throughout her life, and I find it interesting to look at the lyrics in a way that some are about his concern for her, and then some of the lyrics later on are about what she did for him. There's a lot of mentions of Katie in the book, understandably, but interestingly, I think he only refers to her as Katie once, so it's usually Kate. In fact, I think on one page, if I remember correctly, he even says, Kate was Katie back then. So he mostly calls her Kate in the book. So it's interesting that he called her Katie in the song, but obviously it probably flows better to call her Katie. But it sounds like they were pretty close growing up. This is actually the first of the songs that I know of by Andrew that he wrote that mentions Katie. Does anybody remember what the second song that he mentions Katie in is?
Like the actual name or something that refers to her? Probably Ohio then?
Yep, you got it.
Yeah.
That's the one I had in mind. I don't think there's any others that mention her by name, is there?
No, but I think in the like Catching Cold, like a lot of the Andrew McMahon EP is sort of about her and her struggles. Yeah.
I do remember that now, but he never mentions her name in it, right?
Not that I can think of, but no, I'm pretty sure no.
When you hear those opening piano notes, how does that make you feel when you hear that?
For me, it just kind of like pulls me in. I love the songs where it's like piano focused more. Now sort of knowing more about the story behind it and Andrew and his story, I think it's sort of like more sentimental in a way because you're like, yeah, Katie, you did it, girl. But it's just, and also like in the sadness sort of way, because I can't imagine what she was going through. He was going, like the family in the way. So you put yourself in that position. But yeah, those notes, they pull me in.
How about you, Diane?
I think Lisa said it perfectly. The beginning notes, they pull you in, and it's such a good song. And I probably would feel different about it if I didn't know the story. But since I do know the story, it just makes it that much better.
You know, it's very distinct. That piano is very distinct leading into the song. The fact that we know about the background does make it a little bit more emotional too. But it's just, I feel like the whole EP, so Dear Jack, Diane the Skyscraper, and There Katie, they have a similar sound to them in a way. They don't sound alike completely, but I always appreciate that when an album or a collection of songs kind of have a sound that fit together. And I really believe that about this EP.
I would say I agree with you. It's like uplifting but sombering at the same time. You know, You feel the sentimental value behind the music, but it's also in sort of like an uplifting way. At least that's how it feels to me.
Yeah, that's a good description of it. But there's something that all three of these songs do have in common, and I'll give you a hint. It's in the title.
They all have a name.
Yeah, they all have a name, and that's not completely uncommon among Andrew's catalog, but it's kind of like the Names EP. You know, it's like three people that were really either inspirational or helpful or kind of with him in his journey around that time in his life. They're kind of like three odes to three different people.
Yeah, I definitely, like you said, an ode, I was thinking like letters to them, like as if he's writing a letter to each one. And, you know, Dear Jack, obviously sounding the most literal as far as writing a letter. But when I hear There Katie, it sounds like he's writing a letter to his sister in the form of a song.
It's a really neat thing they do with the instruments in this song, and he's done this on other songs too. They come in gradually. The strings come in real heavy toward the end of the first verse, I think. And then the bass is really defined starting in the beginning of the second verse. And then it isn't until the halfway through the second verse, I think, that the drums actually come in. And then the guitar doesn't even come in until the second chorus. And that's a full band song moving forward from there. But I like when a song builds like that. And that's something that, you know, I definitely didn't notice as just like putting the song on or hearing the song in the background. It's definitely something I had to listen for, because the instruments in a song aren't necessarily always something that specifically one by one jump out at me. But I did notice that when I was listening for each of the instruments, which I try to do sometimes.
Before you started recording, I mentioned that I listened to the song 10 times. But as you're talking about the instruments and them leading into it, now I'm like, I have to go back and listen to the song because I didn't notice
10
that.
more times.
Yeah, 10 more times. I didn't notice that. I'm going to go back and listen and note that as I'm listening to it.
Yeah, the strings always stand out to me the most in that song as far as the instruments being introduced in. But I definitely noticed that on that song. It's like it has a great build, but the strings stand out the most to me within the build of the song.
Yeah, the strings do something special for sure in the middle of the song. Are there any lyrics that stand out to you that just kind of are maybe something more special throughout the song?
Yes, because it probably has like my favorite lyrics throughout a lot of his catalog. I won't say the whole thing, but We All Fade Sometimes, I believe. That stands out to me all the time. Actually, the next tattoo I get, I want it to be centered around those lyrics. So, but definitely that lyric specifically.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
How about you, Diane?
The world can be ugly, but isn't it beautiful?
I knew you were going to say that.
Now that I kind of know what context it was written in, I mean, I knew it was about Katie, but I like to go through the song and try to figure out, well, what parts were more about her panic attacks and depression that she was struggling with, and then which parts are about when she went to the hospital, donated, and saved his life. And I realized quickly when I had that thought looking at the lyrics, I was like, oh, it's actually very clear. The first verse is about him being concerned about her, and then also that goes into the chorus. And then the second verse of what Lisa just read, that's where it turns around, and it's about her taking care of him. So I really like that dynamic. I'm concerned about you. You need to be taken care of, and now you're taking care of me, and I appreciate that. In the first verse, he sings, Katie, you're a brave girl, and I know it's only just started, but I'm going to be there at 6 with some flowers on sticks that were clipped just to make the week strong. Kind of like he's there to comfort her. In Katie, it's a strange world, and girls can get so brokenhearted. And I'm going to skip a little bit here, and then the second verse, courage is something I'll need now, because it's been a hell of a day. I've been fading away, but we all fade away sometimes, I believe, which is what Lisa read earlier. Or probably recited from memory, I'm guessing, but I'm reading. But I I love these next lines here because this is where it really becomes clear what's happening. As I watch our tables get turned round, but you've got the strength that I've lost, who would have thought you'd be carrying me? There was one time where Andrew was comforting or being there for his sister, and this is the moment. And as soon as he needed her help, she was there for him. So we can't forget the wonderful chorus. And Diane, you said it earlier. This world can be ugly, but isn't it beautiful? But I love the whole comparisons to the sunshine's been missing, as in, she wasn't feeling well. She was depressed, according to what he wrote. He didn't go into too much detail, and I think he even said at one point that's really her story to tell, not his, but just that she struggled throughout her years, that he wished that he could be there for her more, actually. Do either of you have a favorite part of the song? I know we've talked lyrics. Is that, would you say those lyrics that you mentioned are your favorite part of the song, or is there something else that really jumps out at you as like, that's the part that gets me every time?
It is like those lyrics, because I feel like those lyrics lead into for the song terms and gets like upbeat and you have that full band in there. So I think it sort of has that dip and on the upswing. Yeah, it's that general part where he's singing about it's been a hell of a day, it's been fading away, just kind of turns the song around right after it.
Definitely. I hear what you mean there. How about you, Diane?
Yeah, my favorite part's the lyric that I quoted. I like that part of the song. It's just when he sings it, it's just like, that makes so much sense.
That chorus is awesome altogether. And I think that's kind of the pinnacle of the chorus, actually. I got to give a shout out to the strings Lisa mentioned earlier, because I think the strings, like I said, bring a lot to the song. It's one of my favorite pieces of the song. But lyric-wise, I got to go with, I actually have a different one than the two of you. I'm surprised. I think it's because it's the way the song starts. Katie, you're a brave girl, and I know it's only just started. I know the story that he's about to tell. It's partially that piano, that sweeping piano leading in. I think it's the background knowledge I have about the song and about his relationship with Katie and what she did for him that makes that line so important. Where does this song rank for you in the Andrew McMahon catalog?
Top 5.
Wow, top 5?
Probably top 3. I really love this song, yeah. I would say my list is probably always sort of shuffling depending on my mood, but this song is always like top of the list for me.
Good choice for a song to talk about then.
Yeah.
Well, now I feel bad because it's probably not even in the top 20.
No, that's okay.
I like this song and I listen to it, but it's not like I have a playlist that I listen to daily while I'm working or whatever, like in my car or whatever, and I don't have this in that playlist. And so I feel like those are like my top songs. Yeah, so I would probably say maybe like top 30.
I don't know where I'd rank it. I mean, Diane, I don't know if this would be in the top 30 for me. It's a great song. It is hard to hear myself say it's not one of my top songs, because even before we started talking about it tonight, I knew that I loved this song. But it's not one that I put on specifically, if that makes any sense. I want to go hear that one right in this moment, like I do with a lot of Andrew's songs. But when I hear it, it's one of those, and I've said this about other songs before on here, but it's one of those when I hear it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this song. Like, where was this song, for the last few months that I didn't hear it again? I think it's, if I get the chance to hear it in concert, I think it's going to be really special. And I'm the type of person who I'm always kind of seeking that song I haven't heard him play yet. And so if I do get to hear it at 11:11, that would be amazing. If not, I'll be okay with it. There's a lot of other great songs, but
I have to agree with what you said, because it's one of those songs that it's like, it's not my playlist, but when you're at the concert, you're like, hey, he played There, Katie. You don't hear this one very often. And so I completely understand what you're saying though.
Yeah, I'd be pleasantly surprised to hear it. Remind me, who picked this song? Was it you that recommended, Lisa, or was it my suggestion? I don't even remember now.
I think you suggested it, and we both were like, automatically yes.
Yeah, I thought so, because I always like to do a song around this time of year that ties back to the Dear Jack mission somehow. So I did Dear Jack 2 years ago. We did Constantine last year, and then, in this year's There, Katie, and I'll find a different one to do next year. I want to know, though, how can people like myself and other people listening help with the Dear Jack mission this year and in the future?
Well, like you said earlier, you've been following as many of the teams as you can find on social media. Obviously, inflation is happening and people may not be able to donate as much as they can. another way to sort of help out the lifeless warriors is they have what they do is letters with love.
Mm-hmm.
They do it sort of quarterly. So they do a Zoom, and it's Susan who's on there, and she talks about each of the warriors. It's like a card writing party. So you just, write out a card with the message. I think the last ones I did, I tried to do like a dad joke sort of pertaining to like what they were interested in, or if they were a teacher or something. But just that way you're sending a little bit of love and brightening their day without having to necessarily open your wallet. Otherwise, like something I did this year, I have a candy dish at my desk at work, and I put like my QR code like on top of the candy. That way people are like, what's the Dear Jack Foundation? Or I've had a couple of coworkers like scan it and donate, because I think educating people who don't know about what the Dear Jack Foundation is and what their mission is kind of half the battle. Because like you said earlier, there's fans who either know what Dear Jack is, but they really have no idea what they do, or they've never even really heard of Dear Jack Foundation.
Right.
So just sort of like educating new people throughout your fundraising or just in conversation, however it may be, helps a lot, because that's why they call it the Raise Your Voice Challenge, because that's what you're doing. You're raising your voice on behalf of adolescents and young adults with cancer. Those are two ways to help if you can't help with actually donating. Or, as I've been very privileged with, people sort of going through their merch hoards that they have, like tubes of posters in the closet or shirts that they no longer wear or fit into, and they send it to me to auction off, because that's one person's like holy grail of like, oh my god, I've been looking for this poster. They'll bid on it, and people are always more likely to bid and donate more because it is for the foundation, rather than just like buying a record for $200 on eBay.
Yeah.
Actually had a Played in Space auction that ended last night, and it was sealed with damage, but had like damaging on the bind of it. It went for $500 donation.
Unbelievable.
So get this. It was kind of like happened at the perfect moment, because I can't wait to talk about this on the podcast tomorrow. Because it was one of those moments that just sort of like restores your faith in humanity. So there was like a bidding war for a while between two people.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who won, Joe, shout out to Joe. We love Joe right now. He donated $500, and we asked him to donate it to Pugs in the Wilderness, which is Sonia's team. He's basically the one that runs We Are the Pop Underground Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped to get her over her goal. He donated to her. Then he donated another $500 to my team, because he said he wanted to donate more. So $1,000 in donation.
Wow.
And then this morning I posted that we were like $216 away from $7,500 raised. So he donated another $220 to get us over our goal. Just from him alone, that record pretty much raised over $1,200, right? And then the person who was like outbidding him, because I had never seen this username before, and I'm like, is this person just trying to get the bid up? Because I've gotten things up high, but like not to like $500 high.
Mm-hmm.
And they also donated their high bid of $400.
Wow.
So that record brought in like over, almost $2,000, which fully funds one lifeless.
That's incredible.
What is happening?
Nice job.
Just, you never know what you're going to donate that this one person wants, and they're willing and able to spend the money because it's going to the cause, and they know they're going to get the item from me. So keep sending me stuff, or any fundraiser for that matter that is good people. But
I finally won an auction on the Love for Leukemia Instagram page, so I was very excited to get a drive-in T-shirt and signed poster. So excited! I got the poster framed, and I got the T-shirt now, and it's very exciting. So
that's my girl, Jess.
Yeah, I met her on the rock boat, actually.
Yes. I think that's what I love a lot too about the fundraisers, is like we are all either friends in real life or know each other, where we, are all trying to support each other no matter what. So you'll see like we're all sharing each other's auctions and stuff to get on as many eyes on it as possible, where it's not feeling as much like as a competition. It really is just a community of like-minded people trying to raise money.
And I'm going to sneak right in there and give Lisa a shout out because she's the one that got my team up past our goal. She helped my team out.
Just an example of one team helping another. That's really cool. So if somebody that's listening is just learning about this, or maybe was hesitant to get started before, how do they go about joining one of these teams or creating their own? What time of year does that start, and how do they go about that?
So the last couple of years, it's been starting in August. So it's usually like second week of August till 11/11. Last year, the date was pushed back because of the rock boat. So they always have it end on like the benefit night.
Mm-hmm.
If you're part of the Facebook group, Pop Underground, I've seen plenty of times where people have been like, I want to join a team this year, like who has spots available?
Mm-hmm.
And people have sort of gotten on teams that way, or reach out to me or Diane. Like it's pretty much anybody you know who's been fundraising for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure one of us can help find you people either within your area or that don't have full teams to join.
Okay.
Otherwise, just sign up. You know, you go on the webpage and there's a way to start your own classy page and just start that way too. If you really needed to, say Diane started her own page and then she decided she wanted to join another team, Brett can merge those teams together as long as it's within 10 people. So they have been able to before, like, merge the teams together.
What's next for Dear Jack? I mean, where are we at with the fundraising goal this year?
So I will say that it is a little bit of a struggle this year. So I know that they just did an auction for like a benefit like bundle. They're doing a wine and dine night.
I saw that.
Yeah. I'm like, damn, I wish I could do that.
Yeah, I wish I could too.
You know, and the benefit, sometimes towards the end, they have like another match that happens. That helps to also inspire people to donate because they're doubling their impact. I don't know if that's happening, but it'll be another great way to, you know, get some more dollars in. So they have a little bit of work to do.
I saw that Andrew joined Cameo. I heard him say that he was hesitant to do so previously, but that he did it, and he's actually been enjoying himself doing it. So he's raised a lot of money that way, it sounds like.
Yeah. I think I saw him comment on Pillar that over $20,000 was raised. And I think that was probably about like a week or so ago. So who knows how many more cameos have been done. So
that's great.
Nice chunk of change right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. So I'd recommend anybody who can help by donating or getting involved in some way, just to help young adults in their battle or lessen their burdens. Whether it's donating or donating blood or platelets at your local Red Cross, just getting educated, or like Lisa said, getting the word out.
So going back to other ways to support, sort of this whole episode is kind of centered around this one thing, is getting on the list, you know, getting your cheek swab so you can join the bone marrow registry. Love Hope Strength. We used to go out on tour with Andrew and a bunch of different bands. So it was easy for people to do it at a concert. Fortunately, they don't do it anymore, but you can just request a kit from Be The Match and they'll send it to you for free. Literally, it's like just sticking a Q-tip in your cheek for like 30 seconds up and down. You put it back in, you send it out, and then they'll email you to let you know that you're on the list. And that way you're on it. You don't have to update any re-swab or anything like that. So it's really simple, easy to do. And who knows, you could, you know, get that call that you're a potential match and be the reason why somebody else is able to continue their story.
That's a perfect thing to end it on. Thank you again, both Diane and Lisa, for being on the show, taking time out of your night. I do want to end with a quote from Andrew himself from the Dear Jack Benefit Show in 2018. And I'll admit I've used this quote on an episode before, but I think it's a really important one. Someone told me that what I went through, you have a chance. You have an opportunity, you have a voice. You have a stage, you have a platform. And you survived it. And you got to make it easier for those who follow behind you. So I just want to say thank you to Andrew McMahon and everyone who's involved with the fundraising for Dear Jack Foundation, including Diane and Lisa here, for being a part of that and volunteering all their time and effort and what they do for other people. So thank you both, and thank you to all the teams who helped meet that fundraising goal.